Today I'm going to be refuting Andrew's claim, which was that self-driving cars are not currently suitable to be implemented into the world today. His supporting claims were: 1, self-driving cars are twice as likely to be in an accident; 2, self-driving cars are not flexible enough to take on the roadways of the United States; and 3, there is a lack of laws pertaining to the responsibility of damages that occur in self-driving car accidents. So I'm going to respond to his first supporting claim, which was self-driving cars are twice as likely to be in an accident. There's actually a study that was published by the Virginia Tech Transportation Institute, and it said that self-driving cars, on average, were actually involved in fewer accidents compared to vehicles that were driven by humans. According to the study, human-driven vehicles would find themselves in 4.2 crashes per 1 million miles driven, and self-driving cars would find themselves in only 3.2 crashes for every 1 million miles that were driven. Also, something to note is that Google, they've been very transparent with the accidents that have happened, and Google is one of the leaders in self-driving cars. And so they've been very transparent in reporting accidents that have happened. And a report from Google shows that the company's fleet has been involved in just 17 crashes over the past 6 years, and none of them, at the time of this report at least, I believe now there's been one that was actually caused by the car, but none of them at that time had been caused by the actual self-driving car, and had been another car crashing into the self-driving car. So to address his second supporting claim, which was that self-driving cars are not flexible enough to take on the roadways of the United States, he said that Google has only mapped 2,000 of the 4 million miles of road in the United States, and because of that, he believes that Google autonomous cars are not effective on the roadways because they haven't mapped most of them. But actually, autonomous cars don't really work that way. They don't necessarily need to have mapped the roadways in order to be effective. Actually, one of his sources stated, Andrew Chaplin, who's a leader at the Google self-driving program, he stated that rather than having to figure out what the world looks like from scratch every time we turn on the software, we tell the computer what the world is expected to look like when it's empty. The job of the software is actually to figure out how the world is different from the expectation. That makes the problem a lot simpler. So basically, Google self-driving cars have programmed into them a sort of expectation of what the driving conditions are going to be like, and they react to differences in that expectation. So they don't actually need to know the pathways of the roads. They react to stimuli in the environment, and so it's kind of unnecessary actually for them to have mapped out all those miles of roadway. And then his third supporting claim was there is a lack of laws pertaining to the responsibility of damages that occur in self-driving accidents. A 2014 Brookings Institution study found that actually there is a current protection liability law that holds car manufacturers accountable for crashes caused by autonomous cars. So actually, the United States might not even need to rewrite any laws for automation moving forward. Corinne Yozo, the Scientific American, states that when a computerized driver replaces a human one, the companies behind the software and the hardware sit on the legal liability chain, and so not the car owner or the person's insurance company does. Eventually and inevitably, the car makers will have to take the blame. And so Andrew kind of implied that this might discourage the production of autonomous cars because the companies producing these cars are going to have to take the blame if anything goes wrong. They might not want that risk. But it appears that that's actually not going to be the case. Last October, Volvo declared that it would pay for any injuries or property damage caused by its fully autonomous IntelliSafe autopilot system, which is scheduled to debut in the company's cars by 2020. So, the thinking of these companies is that actually the self-driving technology is going to be so safe that crashes will be far and few in between, so them holding the liability for it won't actually be a big deal. So it appears that it's actually not discouraging any of them to stop producing these self-driving cars. So just to summarize, I do not believe that self-driving cars are twice as likely to be in an accident. I actually believe they are less likely to be in an accident. I do believe that self-driving cars can be flexible enough to take on the roadways just due to their programming and how they react to stimuli in the environment. And I believe that there are currently actually laws pertaining to the responsibility of damages that occur in self-driving car accidents, and I don't believe that car manufacturers having to hold liability on accidents is going to discourage them from entering the market. Thank you.
All right, well, the organization is clear. You've got, on the first point, you start with a study that talks about this particular issue. You want to make the claim first. You're trying to let the evidence make your argument for you. Your argument really here is exactly the inference that is drawn from the evidence that self-driving cars have lower rates of accidents than human-driven cars. That should be the claim, and then cite the study from Virginia Tech. As it is, you kind of had it a little bit backwards. But other than that, I thought your answer there was pretty effective. And the idea that Google's transparent and they've reported on the accident results that they've had over the years, again, there's a little bit of context there. In projecting to the future, there might be more issues that are going on, but I thought that that was a reasonable piece of data from contemporary times to explain the issue. The flexibility issue, I know that there's a point that's being made here by the engineering that's being talked about here on the software and how it is supposed to work, and the mapping thing doesn't matter. And it sounds pretty good. I'm just not sure I understood it. So, you know, if I was listening to this with the intention of buying the product, for instance, or relying on the product, I think I'd have to have a little bit more explanation of what's going on than what you gave me. Although I do think that you presented a piece of information and some testimony that suggests that it's true. By the way, though, it does come from somebody who is in the process of designing these kinds of cars, engineers who design this sort of thing. So that it's supposed to do this is one thing, that it does it, that's another thing, and I think there might be a little bit of a problem there. On the legal issue, I thought that you had very good responses there, and I thought that you had an excellent presentation of the argument too. You look at us, you're talking to us, you're explaining things as you go along. It comes across very effectively. All right, thank you.